Hello and welcome to You Skipped That. I'm Dan Clark.
And I'm Alex Grace.
Was that weird tone?
I don't know.
I'm Alex Grace. This is the podcast where we introduce each other to movies the other one has not seen. And this week is my week. And so, of course, I pick you pick these weird movies that kind of never quite found their audience. I tend to pick movies that are kind of weird that did find their audience.
Yeah.
Because this is a tonally weird movie. It's very dire at times. It's very serious. And other times it is just gut-bustingly funny.
Yes.
I'm talking about the 2015 science fiction movie.
It's hard sci-fi.
Yeah, hard sci-fi. There we go. The Martian.
Yes.
With a stacked cast. We'll get to that in a second.
No kidding.
Some of whom just surprise you, just show up.
Yeah.
One of them doesn't show up until like 3/4 of the way through the movie.
Right.
But let's get things out of the way. I think I know the answer to this because you seem to be in a really good mood, but what'd you think?
I loved this.
It's just a good movie.
It's a capital G good movie.
Yeah. If you don't know about it, it was a big deal a few years ago, but if you haven't heard of it or haven't seen it, Matt Damon plays an astronaut on a Mars mission where something goes horribly wrong and his team gets out and starts on their way home thinking that he has died. But if he had, that'd be a really short movie.
Very.
He has not died and in fact has to survive on the Martian surface with all the stuff that they left behind.
Yep.
Including a fully functioning habitation unit.
Yep.
Until they can get to him, which at first he thinks is upwards of 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's just a movie about how he does that. That's the plot. How he does that and how people back on Earth and on the ship going back home work together to make it a shorter amount of time.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the whole movie.
It's pretty straightforward.
And that goes on for 2.5 hours. That does not feel like 2.5 hours.
No. We had to pause for a quick bathroom break during this movie. And I saw that we were somehow almost 2 hours into this movie with like over half an hour to go.
It was like 45 minutes to go.
Yeah. And I was like, how? It feels like we just sat down.
And now that we've gotten through with it, it doesn't feel like that last part was 45 minutes.
No.
That just
a breakneck pace.
Zips right past.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the cast before we start talking more about your feelings.
Let's do it.
Like I said, stacked cast. Matt Damon, Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig in a rare dramatic turn.
Mm-hmm. She wasn't making any of those Kristen Wiig faces you're used to.
I'm going to be super honest. I thought that was Jennifer Aniston.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you don't know who
if you haven't watched every episode of Friends like I have.
Right.
Yeah,
multiple times.
I can see how you think that.
We're not done yet. Jeff Daniels, Michael Pena, Sean Bean, Kate Marr, Sebastian Stan, Donald Glover's in there for a little bit, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Nick Mohammed, better known as Nate the Great from...
Nate the Great!
It took me a while to recognize him, but when I did, I said, is that? And you and Megan both in unison immediately interrupt me and went, yep, that's who it is. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, watch Ted Lasso. I think we've said that in another episode, but it bears repeating. Huge cast. Some of them, like Donald Glover is on for like 3 scenes.
Yeah.
And most of his scenes are just him kind of being awkward and not saying anything.
Yeah. Or dumping a whole bunch of science.
He has several scenes of just not saying anything, just being weirdly awkward, not saying anything meaningful. And then one scene where he dumps a lot of exposition, and then you don't see him again until the credits.
Yeah.
Everyone pulls their weight in this movie.
Incredibly. Did you mention Benedict Wong? I don't think
Benedict Wong. I must have missed him scrolling down here, but yes, he's in there as well. It's easy to miss people in this movie because there's so many people in this movie.
So many people. And in a good way. None of them feel terribly wasted. They all get a moment to shine.
Yeah, I know I said Donald Glover's kind of there and kind of gone, but he's there the right amount.
Yeah, he's super memorable.
He does exactly what he's supposed to do and exactly the way he's supposed to do it, and then he leaves in exactly the way he's supposed to. Someone says, get out of my office, and he goes, that's fair, and then he leaves, and you don't see him again.
No, it's even better than that. He just looks at him and goes, hey, get out.
Yeah.
And then he leaves the movie until the credits.
Yep. Where he doesn't have another line.
Yeah.
He just kind of stands in a doorway and smiles. So, more about your feelings. What'd you like?
Oh my gosh. Everything. The obvious place. I loved the way they... So the first thought I had sitting down and watching this movie is, this is literally Gravity.
Yeah.
But with every, like, tonal choice flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Where Gravity is a breakneck 90-minute movie. This is a 2.5-hour movie that didn't feel like it.
Meditative, too. It takes breaks to talk about feelings and thoughts and processes, whereas Gravity is just I'm doing this
Yes.
now because I have to now.
And Gravity feels like space versus Sandra Bullock, which is accurate. That's the whole conceit in the movie. This movie, while a big part of it is Matt Damon's character, Mark Watney, it really feels like it's humanity versus space.
Yeah.
In a way. Like everybody coming together to get the one guy who's not on Earth back.
Right.
We have one guy we left behind, and we are going to move heaven and earth to get him back here.
Right. And the sacrifices that we will and won't make to do it, and
Yeah.
all of that.
Spoilers for The Martian. This is one of those podcast people. You just kind of have to be prepared.
We warn
Go watch
you.
The Martian.
You should
Then come back.
definitely watch The Martian.
Yes. 5 stars. 10 out of 10. Go watch it.
Go watch it right now.
I'm going to wait for a minute.
Uh-huh.
The crew agrees to go back for him.
Taking an extra,
Almost 2 years.
onto their skip
Yeah.
between getting there and then coming back.
The total time they figured out that they would spend in space to have gone to Mars, get all the way back to Earth, slingshot around the Earth, go back to Mars to get him.
Classic Star Trek maneuver.
Classic Star Trek. Weirdly enough, I think we've actually used that with satellites before.
Have we?
Yeah. Or at least it's been theorized. I watched a thing on the Discovery Channel. But they spent 900 days, the better part of 3 years in space.
Yeah.
Insane. And they all agree to this because getting their friend back, getting the one guy that got left behind back, matters that much to them.
Right.
And I loved that. You can't leave this movie not feeling good.
It's a movie about unity.
It is.
Because the effort to bring him back transcends borders. Like
Yeah.
the Chinese get involved, revealing one of their secret operations to do it. I love that there's just a throwaway line in there where the guy in charge says, so if we don't do this, they'll never know.
Yeah.
We will not be held responsible
Right.
for this. They end up doing it without any hemming and hawing, but it throws the spotlight on the fact that they didn't have to do this,
Right.
but everyone's coming together because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And not in a cheesy way.
Yeah. It does a very cheesy thing in a completely uncheesy way.
At no point in this movie does it feel hokey.
No.
It feels utterly sincere every second of that 2.5 hours.
Absolutely. Tink. I'll take it.
There you go.
I didn't even say it on purpose. It just happened.
There you go.
I leave this movie very happy and loving humanity.
Which is weird considering how it starts.
Right, yeah.
This is another movie where after he has to take the thing out and fix his wound.
Perform surgery on himself,
Yeah,
basically.
minor surgery, non-invasive.
Yeah.
But I felt, and I haven't had this feeling in a while, but I felt like I almost had to turn to you and go, this isn't what the whole movie's about. I'm not doing this to you for the next 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
This is the nastiest it gets.
Right. And I was fine with that. The other one that kind of shook me in the movie is when he's fixed the HAB unit with just a piece of plastic.
Yep.
And he's in there just counting potatoes in a windstorm. And you just hear that plastic woof, 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 woof outside. And you just see him hold his breath every time a big gust of wind comes by.
Yep.
Say a few words I'm not going to say on the podcast.
Because he's just been blown out the airlock.
Yeah.
And almost killed. And then had to, before he could just get back in and go, all right, that sucked. He had to fix it and then repressurize it and then get back in.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of that stuff of something horrible happens to him and he doesn't have a chance to stop and go, shoot, that was not a fun thing. He just has to keep going. And he does. I love that scene that you just mentioned because it's one of the first times we see him truly rattled.
Yes.
Like, he's just sitting there trying to count potatoes.
Which he has grown on Mars.
He's sitting there counting those potatoes and he can't. He's this guy who has figured out a hexadecimal system to communicate. He has figured out how to create water.
Mm-hmm. Insane.
In the most literal sense of the word, colonize Mars. And here he is just trying to count potatoes, and he has to stop and gather himself.
Yeah.
I love that feeling of him just kind of having reached his breaking point and having to push past it. Mm-hmm. Because these potatoes aren't going to count themselves.
Yeah.
It is more dire than that, but yeah, it's, you know, him taking stock of what he has now that he's lost a lot. Yeah, it's him counting potatoes, and he can't even do that. Like, he's having to write down on pieces of paper how much are in this bin and everything. It's a very effective scene without doing much.
Mm-hmm. Hats off to Matt Damon. He brings it in this movie. Mm-hmm. And in a bunch of different ways. It's a great dramatic turn. It's an incredible comedic turn. He has some lines that just absolutely split my side.
Tank.
Yeah. Oh, man, two. Wow.
Of 'em, yeah.
That's how much this movie has gotten me.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorites that I can repeat on the podcast, because there are a few that include some, shall we say, colorful metaphors.
Profanities.
But there's one where he comes to the realization that Mars is not technically under any country's guidelines. And the climax of the movie is he's going to steal a rocket that's been left for a future mission.
To steal in quotes.
Yeah, they told him to get it.
But he can't officially be told to get it until he's on it because of reasons.
Right. So he's like, I am going to commandeer a ship while in international space. Ergo, I'm the first space pirate.
And then he insists on ground control calling him Captain Blondebeard.
Yes.
I like that. There are, of course, several that we can't fully repeat. I'm going to science the S out of this planet.
Yep.
It's fun. Just an incredibly witty, fun movie considering it's about fighting for your life. Helped along by a very upbeat soundtrack full of disco.
Yeah. The commander of the mission only brought disco music for some reason.
And was because it's all she likes.
All she likes.
And she was the only one that brought music.
Yeah.
And so he's left on Mars for 2-ish years with only disco to listen to.
Yeah.
And he hates disco.
Yep. I was a fan. I thought it was great.
It was good. I mean, that's about all the disco I want to listen to.
True. Yeah. I mean, they hit the hits,
Right.
you know.
With the exception of David Bowie. There's a whole sequence that takes place to Starman, and I'm probably listening to David Bowie tonight.
That is a really good sequence because it's kind of when everything to get him home is finally coming together.
Right. After so much has gone wrong on both sides.
Yes. Because, at both ends of this, him surviving on Mars and them trying to get him supplies or a rescue mission has just fallen apart 2 or 3 times. Literally.
Sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally.
Dialogue's great. The story's incredible. The visuals are amazing.
Yep.
The way they depict Mars in this is gorgeous.
A lot of that's not CG. That's filmed in an area of Jordan.
That's cool.
That has been used to film several movies that take place on Mars because it just has that
sense.
Martian look.
Yeah. And I mean, especially after some of the pictures we've seen from the more modern rovers and stuff, it just looks like Arizona.
Yeah.
Just without cacti.
A little more red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slightly.
A little bit.
You go to parts of Utah, it's pretty red.
Jessica Chastain plays the commander of the mission who is on the flight back and has to rally the group together, which consists of Jessica Chastain, Kate Mara was Johansson, Michael Pena, Sebastian Stan.
Weird there's 2 Marvel people in there.
Yeah.
There's even a joke made about Iron Man at one point in this.
And then on the ground there's Chiwetel Ejiofor who plays in Baron Mordo, who plays in Doctor Strange, and kind of Donald Glover.
Yeah.
He has been in 2 Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
Just not canonical ones in Marvel. On the ground there is Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Who is just... there is no actor who I am quite as relieved to see in a movie. Like, as soon as I see him, I'm like, this is going to be a good movie.
Right.
He just does not involve himself in bad movies.
Right.
I remember first being exposed to him in Serenity.
That's where I first saw
the
him.
Firefly movie.
Yep.
And from the second he got on the screen, I'm like, who is this guy and where has he been this whole time?
Of course, seen him in both Doctor Strange movies. How are you feel about the quality of them he's commanding in that? He was in 12 Years a Slave, which I'm willing to bet you haven't seen.
I have not. I've heard good things.
I don't think it's your kind of movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie you walk away from just, it's kind of on the same level as Schindler's List. Like, that was depressing.
Yeah.
The entire time. Even the happy parts were kind of bittersweet, but I mean, it was good.
Right.
He won an Academy Award for it, and he deserved it.
Right.
Also on the ground is Kristen Wiig, Sean Bean, Donald Glover.
Both always great.
Yep. And then Jeff Bridges plays...
Jeff Daniels, man.
Jeff
how are you messing up? Jeff Daniels is an amazing actor.
He is, and he's fantastic in this. Not to say anything against Jeff Bridges.
Right. I love Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Daniels plays the head of NASA. And they're all great down there coming up with ways to first communicate with him and then help him and then bring him home.
And I kind of liked Jeff Daniels' role in this, kind of figuring out how to balance saving him with NASA not falling apart if something goes wrong.
He does a really good job of playing the character that has to say no a lot.
Yeah.
Without coming across as a wet blanket.
Yeah, he doesn't come across as the sad, bitter no guy. Or the, well, it's what's good for everybody kind of thing. It's a guy who this decision's weighing on. Like, he's not giddy about suggesting maybe we should leave the one guy behind to make sure the 5 people get home safely.
Right.
Who are already most of the way home.
Right. And when things change, because he makes the decision, we're not sending them back to pick him up. We're just not doing that.
Yep.
And Sean Bean's character secretly sends them the plans and says, if you want to do this, here's what you have to do. And once you commit to it, we can't change your minds down here.
Yeah.
Once you commit to it, it's done.
Yeah.
And we have to fall in line.
We're stuck with you.
And when Jeff Daniels figures this out and immediately knows that it was Sean Bean that did it, he's like, okay, this is the plan now, because we can't change it. There'll be repercussions,
yeah,
but that's for after, which makes him a much better character. And part of that's down to the writing. I don't want to give him all the credit, but I will give him most of the credit, because it takes a lot to pull a character like that off and not have it just be like every time he comes on the screen, like, oh god, this guy again.
This guy. The fun police.
Yeah, just kind of a quietly charismatic guy. You can see why he would be the head of NASA, the one who was tasked with going on TV and being like, yeah, we lost a guy, because he's able to do it with the requisite weight and dignity and all of that and not have people devour him.
Yeah.
So
I do like, there's a part where he's giving a press conference, and right after they found out that he's alive, and one of the reporters asks, are you going to resign over this? And he just looks at him and goes, no.
And that's the end of the scene.
And that's the end of the scene.
Yep. Which is an appropriate response. Why would he resign over the fact that everything was done to the letter? What is it, 12 light minutes away?
Yeah.
They say later on. He couldn't have done anything even if he'd been in mission control at the time. They all did everything they were supposed to do. And that's another thing about this movie. It's not like anyone messed up. Mark Watney was injured and lost, and his team had to leave at that time or they weren't going to be able to leave at all. And he doesn't do anything wrong in what he's not breaking any, well, he breaks some rules, space pirate.
Yeah.
But a lot of what he does is within mission guidelines, and what he does is outside mission guidelines. He does on maybe not direct orders, because again, space pirate rules and all that. But, on the ground, no one, there's that one bit of going behind his back.
Yeah.
But it's a dire moment. There is no bad guy in this. Like you said, it's humanity versus space. Yeah. The elements are the villain. I like that. It makes it feel...
And it's funny in that a difference between this and Gravity is this feels like space just doesn't care. Space doesn't care if they succeed or fail. Whereas...
Space is impartial in this.
Space is impartial. Yeah, it's just there. It felt like in Gravity, space was trying to kill Sandra Bullock the whole time.
Yeah.
It was like space was the monster in a horror movie.
Yeah, this one feels like it's man versus nature. Gravity felt like space was an enemy. So
in space, no one can hear you scream.
Did you catch they almost did that?
Yeah.
And Ridley Scott directs the crap out of this movie.
Incredible.
He had a couple duds right before that. I think he had like Exodus, Gods and Kings that didn't do very well. He had one other one that I don't think did very well. This is a return to form for him. He manages to take 3 very different situations. The situation on Earth, the situation on Mars, and the situation on the
Hermes.
The ship returning to Earth, and balance them so it doesn't feel like we're getting too much of one or the other. Manages to keep them all straight so it doesn't feel confusing about when something's going on or what does one set know and the other one doesn't. It's a very well composed movie in a way that doesn't feel obvious. Yeah. Which is even more difficult to do that without you realizing that it's being done. Especially considering the book, I believe for like the first half of it, it's just Mark Watney's journals. Wow. And then about halfway through, I think it's when they realize that he's alive. Yeah. It starts showing what's going on back there. It doesn't even show in the book the incident, the storm. That's not a scene. It is just, the book was originally released in blog format.
Oh, interesting.
Where Andy Weir would just release one day's log.
That's interesting.
On through, and he said that way I could think of the next problem and have a full day to think of how he would solve it and everything, and put a ton of thought into this all through, and then eventually put it together in a book and sold it, and it did, let's say, mildly well.
Well enough to get a movie adaptation.
It's with this cast, yeah. If you've seen the movie but haven't read the book, read the book. It's all this and more.
I really enjoyed the crunchiness of the sci-fi in this. That was a lot of fun. I loved seeing the centrifugal force gravity on the Hermes was cool.
Do you know how scientifically accurate this movie is?
How?
Neil deGrasse Tyson has said this is the most scientifically accurate movie he has ever seen.
And that guy complains about everything.
Everything.
No hate, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No, he's a delightful guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved you on Big Bang Theory.
The only scientific inaccuracy that Andy Weir himself will say, yeah, I had to bend something to make a story happen, is the worst storm that you'll get on Mars because of the lack of atmospheric pressure. It will, like, ruffle your hair. So that storm at the beginning is completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
But after that, all the stuff that he does, all the stuff he digs up, all the stuff that, down to the fact that the HAB units that are used are taken off NASA prototypes that they're planning on sending to Mars at some point.
That's cool.
Hopefully by the date that the movie takes place, which is like in the 30s, 2030s.
Everything about this movie makes sense, even if you don't know that it makes sense. Because, it doesn't feel boring at all. Ever. Like,
even on repeat viewings.
Yeah, even when they're going through just the driest scientific conversation, it doesn't feel that dry.
Yeah, I've talked in previous episodes, like Singing in the Rain, where it's like, there's the Broadway melody number where, okay, if you've seen it before, this is where you go take a bathroom break, grab some popcorn, get back. There's nothing like that in this. Even on repeat viewings, it's just fun.
Yeah. This is just reaffirming my early teen decision that maybe my dream of being an astronaut was not a good idea.
Same. Yeah, I've never been so happy to give up on a dream.
Yeah, because like when I was a little kid, I absolutely wanted to be an astronaut.
Dang.
That is 3! Holy cow. Yeah. That might be a record.
I mean, recently.
Short of like the first.
Yeah, recently.
First episode or two. Yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut.
Oh, yeah, me
Big
too.
time. Weirdly, because of the movie Space Camp, which is also about a space adventure gone horribly wrong.
I've never seen that.
I don't know that it'll go on the list, but it is a fun watch.
All right.
Especially you can ignore some things.
That's how most movies are. Not this one, but...
no. This was just 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I was like, space. Awesome. And then I realized, just the amount of hard work that goes into being an astronaut. And I'm like, I'm not that driven.
Right.
That was the best decision I ever made, not following on that dream.
Yeah, I was the same way. I remember having a big poster of a launching rocket ship on my wall and really wanting to go to space.
Yeah.
Figure out what that was all about.
Sometimes dreams are meant to die.
And it's good, yeah.
And it's good, yeah. It's not a bad thing,
Yep.
They change. They evolve.
I also wanted to be a paleontologist and decided I didn't want to stand around
Me
in the
too.
desert. Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that. We got something in common.
And see, right. And I didn't even have the whole thing having watched Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a paleontologist before Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park just stoked the fire.
Yeah, for me, it was Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason I knew the word paleontologist. Also, the reason I knew the phrase plate tectonics.
Nice.
At age 5.
We were both annoying kids to be around.
I was a very annoying kid. I've learned that in recent years. I've started looking back and going, oh, I was that kid.
I need to apologize to people.
Yeah. So that means with some trivia.
Yes, trivia. Matt Damon filmed his solo scenes for 5 weeks before being relieved for the remainder of the filming schedule. Most of that time he was without other actors. This movie used the biggest green screen in history.
Wow.
Yeah, I believe it was for the actual space scenes because
the
Mars scenes were filmed in Jordan. When Watney tears up hearing Lewis for the first time, Lewis played by Jessica Chastain, his tears were genuine. Those lines were recorded ahead of time, and Matt Damon said he thought about the fact that Watney had been alone for 2 years and the fact that he was listening to a voice from someone who wasn't really there. Director Ridley Scott was so impressed that only one take was done.
Wow.
Yeah, so him crying there was genuine. The name Mark, as in Mark Watney, is derived from the Latin name Marcus, which means of Mars.
Ooh, interesting.
I don't know if that was intentional, but knowing what I know of Andy Weir, it was probably intentional. Yeah. The movie led to a change in the rules of the Golden Globes because it controversially was nominated for and won for Best Picture and Best Actor in a musical or comedy, likely to avoid stiff competition in the drama categories, which were stacked that year. After outcry from several filmmakers, the method by which a movie is categorized as a drama or comedy was changed. So this would have been a drama with comedic tones, which I think would have been fair.
Yeah.
I do remember hearing that this won for comedy and going, really, that one? Like, I mean, well, it had funny moments, but...
Yeah.
And then the only bit of alternate casting that I could find anywhere, Lewis was supposed to be Cate Blanchett.
Huh.
But she was not available, so they had to settle for Jessica Chastain.
I mean, that's a solid lateral move.
That's a good one. Yeah. I guess Matt Damon heard that they were making a movie out of this, and he said, I want in.
Nice.
And so he was attached through a different director, who's also the writer, and stayed on board, but left because he was going to do the Sinister Six movie, which didn't happen. But it said it all worked out because Ridley Scott did a better movie than he would have been able to. So that's your trivia.
That's some solid trivia. So overall, just another great space adventure.
It is. I like both this and Gravity.
Oh, me too.
Obviously,
both spectacular movies.
I picked both of them. This is, I think, the better movie.
I'd say so, too.
This is the one that I'm more likely to rewatch.
Yeah. They both tell a good story of the triumph of the human spirit, people getting through something tough.
Yeah.
I just kind of like this one's version a little better.
It has a better tone to it.
Yeah.
There's time to breathe in this movie.
Yeah. Whereas Gravity, it feels like it's happening to you.
Right.
You feel like you're watching all this happen to Mark Watney, and there are moments where it's like, oh man, this is kind of intense, you know?
In Gravity, when the junk starts coming back around the planet, it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Whereas when the airlock bursts,
Yeah.
like, oh no, how's this guy that I really like going to survive this?
Yeah, how's he going to fix
Feels
this?
a little more removed, which could be an insult, but in this case is a very good thing. Yeah, this just has this has more rewatchability.
Yeah.
So
I'd agree.
Yeah. I actually had to spend money on this. I own the movie, but I bought the extended edition thinking, I mean, I love the movie, so more movies better. And then after I did that, I read that Ridley Scott regretted going back and making an extended edition of it. So now I have to rent the other version.
Okay, that hasn't stopped him from caring about any of the 400 other director's cuts he's done of every other movie he's made.
No. Any other thoughts?
I really don't want to know what potatoes made with crap taste like. I mean, manure is manure, I guess.
I think they would taste
like potatoes.
Yeah.
But here's the thought. Would Mars potatoes taste different than Earth potatoes?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about potatoes.
It weirdly goes back to last week's episode. Argyle. Does it growing in Martian soil give it a different flavor? You know?
Right.
One day we may find out.
We may. I believe this came out not very long off of Gravity. I don't even know which one came out
They were
first.
pretty close together.
Yeah.
I mean, within a couple years.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, this has been in development a while.
Trying to think of other... White House Down and...
and Olympus Has
Fallen
Fallen.
both came out inside of a year.
Ants in a Bug's Life. Now, I think that one, there was a little controversy, I think, with that one, where some people had jumped ship from one and went to work on the other.
And it was early enough in the development of the one that they were able to come... Because, again, that one was... I mean, I was young when that happened, but it seems like it was real
like,
close.
boom, boom.
Yeah.
Like, within 6 months or a year.
I haven't seen either in a long time.
I've seen Bug's Life within, like... I watched it with my nephew.
Right.
It holds up.
Yeah, I seem to remember Ants even back then being like, that just is a little uncanny valley right
Yeah.
there.
Bug's Life, it's not the best Pixar movie, but it is...
It's not the worst.
It is one I enjoy a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the worst.
Right. Controversial opinion time. What would you say is the worst Pixar movie?
I'll tell you, I have had absolutely...
Tank.
My God! That's 4!
Oh, my schemes are
I've
coming
had-
true. I don't know to what end, but...
Yeah, I've had no interest in watching The Good Dinosaur. I've never actually watched it, because I just look at it and I'm like, this doesn't look fun.
I've seen it because I used to have a tradition with my mom of every summer, right around both of our birthdays, actually. Our birthdays are right next to each other. But yeah, my mom and I used to go see whatever the Pixar movie was that year.
Yeah.
Every year. And one year it was The Good Dinosaur, and I've seen it, and that was going to be my answer too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen all the Pixar movies either, but...
I think I've seen everyone but that now.
Yeah.
Because I caught up, after we got back from Disney, I caught up on a bunch of them. I watched Turning Red, Elemental, and Inside Out 2, all in one weekend.
I haven't seen Elemental or Inside Out 2.
Both very good.
I will also say Cars 2 is in the running for
Cars
worst.
2 is by far the weakest of the Cars movies.
I haven't seen Cars 3.
Cars 3 is pretty decent, I think. Cars 1 is honestly up there in Pixar movies for me.
I've seen it once.
Yeah.
I don't have the excuse of having a kid to...
My nephew loved Cars
Oh, I remember.
so much.
I remember.
I've seen that movie at least 40 times.
Right.
I could still watch it again. That is the mark of a good movie for me.
Would that be your best Pixar movie?
No,
Okay.
it would be up there. I'd say that's in... I kind of rate Pixar movies like I rate Marvel movies. They're not in a specific order. There's a best, a worst,
And
and
then
a bottom half and a top half.
a gradient in between.
I'd put the first Cars in the top half.
Okay.
My favorite varies wildly between one of three.
Okay.
Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, and WALL-E.
WALL-E's my top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love WALL-E.
WALL-E's just amazing.
If you haven't seen WALL-E,
Go watch WALL-E.
go watch WALL-E. Go watch most Pixar stuff.
Yeah, I mean, all 4 Toy Stories are in the top half. 2 might be at the bottom, like towards the...
Really? You put 2 as the worst Toy Story movie?
Probably.
I'd put 4.
So yeah, 4 is probably the weaker one.
4 is the only one that doesn't feel essential.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. The story was over with 3.
There are bits of 4 that I really enjoy.
Oh, yeah.
Key and Peele are fantastic.
Doing anything, yeah.
Doing anything is great, but the scene where they're walking through what to do about the old lady,
Uh-huh.
and, it cuts through a couple of really just shenanigansy ideas, and then it cuts to them just straight up suggesting they murder the old lady in an elaborate plan, and just
Like, she'll go home, she'll take a bath, she'll light some candles.
Yeah,
she'll
and
go
then
to bed. And then
it just cuts to them like menacingly standing over her
Looming,
with a
yeah.
pillow. I remember watching that and just laughing my butt off.
Yep.
So I think that in itself elevates that one more than it probably should.
Yeah, I think 2 has more of an emotional punch, which I like.
Yeah.
When She Loved Me sequence is
That's true.
gut-wrenching.
That's true. It also has the joke where Buzz is running through the luggage sorting center and a luggage tag gets stuck to his backside that says Butte, Montana. That's a solid joke.
Yep. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Monsters, Inc.
Yep.
probably sits closer to the top. That's the one that I think more often than not I would say is my favorite.
Okay. It's a solid choice. I'd
Yeah,
put it
but
top
Finding
3.
Nemo and WALL-E definitely can take that spot
Right.
at times.
I'll even say, I wouldn't put it towards the top, but I even liked Monsters University.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good.
All right. We should probably get out of here before we start
We should.
getting way deep into...
I mean, we're in the weeds.
We're getting there.
We're the tall grass, man. We're in the weeds.
Yeah. Would you like to go over socials?
Socials, yes. I would love to go over socials. We have an Instagram.
Do we now?
At You Skipped That.
Nice.
We have a Threads. You want to know what it is?
Tell
At
me.
You Skipped That.
Nice.
Both of those, no capital letters, no punctuation. Just, You Skipped That.
Yeah.
No spaces. Just very casual.
Yeah.
Very early internet,
Yeah, we like to keep it light around here.
Yeah. And then Facebook, it's a little more formal.
Right?
So you got
You got it. I mean, like,
you get capital letters,
people's grandmas are on
you
there.
get spaces. Yeah.
My grandma's on there.
My grandma's on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got capital letters. You skip that with spaces in between, question mark at the end. Mm-hmm. We do different stuff on all of them.
Yeah, pretty much, if you want to find us, go on any social media platform, type in You Skip That, and if the little marquee pops up,
Yeah.
you found us.
You found us.
If it doesn't, then we're not there.
Then we're not there.
Yeah.
There's a couple I made an account on just to hold it.
Uh-huh.
I haven't posted anything.
Right. So if you want to check us out on
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky,
I need to use that one more. It seems nice.
it's picking up traction. I
Picking up
think.
traction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely on Threads.
Well, we're going to get out of here before we get into any more shenanigans. But until next time, I'm Dan Clark.
And I'm Alex Grace.
And this has been You Skip That.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
If we shenan once, we should shenan again, right?
I mean, it seems only polite.
Right.